What is up, sexy people of the internet? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the album from Australian Doom Sludge quartet, Ghostsmoker.
Australian? Never in a million years.
Yep.
Never in a. I had them in the American South,
Right, okay.
like right down there.
Nope.
Couldn't have been any further wrong, Dave.
Yeah.
Other side of the world is where
Yep.
they are.
Yeah. The band's new album, Inertia Cult, will be released on March 21st via Art As Carthasis. So, Ghostsmoker's debut album, Inertia Cult, is a record of earth-shaking sludge and blackened doom. Following the release of their 2022 EP, Grief, Inertia Cult represents an evolution for Melbourne's Ghostsmoker. The newly refined, collaborative approach to recording has allowed the band to hammer out powerful riffs, tighter song structures, and further experiment with mood and atmospherics. We've grown a lot as a band since our first EP in 2022, and that's reflected in this album, says vocalist Nathan Brunning. Our confidence and understanding of who, what we are comes through in this release, and it sets a great foundation for what we do next. Apart from musical influences within the genre, there are plenty of nods to things outside that space have found their way in, continues Brunning. Some of the more atmospheric parts are definitely influenced by horror and sci-fi soundtracks, and our video for Incarnate is a direct homage to the film Skinamarink.
Oh, I like Skinamarink. A lot of people didn't like Skinamarink, and for those people I can say, go fuck yourself.
Right, okay. Interesting. As kids of the 80s and 90s, that lo-fi aesthetic is deeply ingrained in us, so that found its way in here and there as well. With live performances that have been hailed as brutal, earth-shattering and monolithic, Ghostsmoker are developing a much-warranted reputation across Australian gig halls. Preparing for the release of Inertia Cult sees the band committing to a promotional tour for Incarnate's release across Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, throughout November and December, that's 2024. Following that, a full album release tour will take place in March 2025 across Australia, with the potential for overseas tours to Japan or Europe. The album was recorded and mixed by Jason Fuller, then mastered by John Roberto. Okay, so, not gonna lie, the band name alone had me interested.
Artwork's killer as well.
It is,
so.
yeah.
They've got a lot going for them. Like, let's be honest here. Like, any band that can just take a T and turn it upside down, invoking the satanic cross.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're already getting an invite for a beer. You know what I mean?
For sure. And then I found out they are a sludge doom band from Australia.
Blackened.
Well,
Blackened.
Blackened.
It's not let's hey, don't leave it the black.
No. However,
Melbourne is a sunny, beachy, beautiful place, and you would not know it from this music.
No, you would not. Not at all. Not even a wee bit.
You know, like, there aren't many fjords that run through in Melbourne, but after listening to this, I think there might be a few. Some church burnings, ahoy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I think the first thing to say about this is, holy fuck, this is heavy. This is... As soon as I heard the guitar chug at the start of Elogium, it was kind of like music to my ears, Duncan.
It's big, Conan heavy.
Big, you were just stealing that.
You know what I mean? It's the same way.
It.
It's like that first time you listen to Monos, and you're like that. Oh, what this is like? It catches you off guard. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, like as soon as I heard this, I was like, okay, Conan, Monolord, Bongripper. Like it is full of the biggest, dirtiest, swampiest riffs, and just. It's so uncompromising that it's like and it's right there. It's in your face. And
it's how it's the musical interpretation of what I'm like when I come off a Peloton bike, like just unable to move, bow-legged, sweaty and swampy, like steam coming off me, and horrible to look at, like offensively horrible to look at to the point that you want to get away.
Yeah, I mean, your walls will literally shake while this album is playing. Like I was like contemplating nailing shit down when this album was on. I was like, fuck me, like this it feels like a band that should have a storm named after them or something, you know, like that that type of heavy. Yeah, I like that is like point one, just like heaviness is just
point
all
one,
over
heavy as fuck.
And I think like in that heavier side of the band, I wouldn't say there was anything like surprising. Like there's no major like plot twists or surprises in that sound. It's like each track will drag you through the darkest and heaviest riffs for a good 7 or 8 minutes.
It's the drop.
Yeah,
that gets me every time. Where you're like Conan's. I keep coming back to Conan's. Is when you're listening to a riff and you're like, oh, and then they go, bah.
Oh yeah, I
like,
mean, there's that element of surprise, but like musically, it doesn't go anywhere that I wasn't really like expecting.
They're not throwing in a jaunty jig in the middle.
No, I mean the tempo is like, you know, the whole way. Like I mean, it's pretty much the same. Which is not, that's not a bad thing. That's not a complaint. But I mean, I love Doom. I love Sludge, and the riffs alone, like just if you just have them on their own, they are more than good enough to keep me engaged throughout this album. Like I was in for that on its own. But it's not to say that there's not moments where you may be like, oh, let's grab a wee breath here, a little seat, have a little cigarette. You know, there's a little bit of breathing space at times, you know.
If you keep smoking, no,
no, they're going to kill you.
Unless you're smoking a ghost. I get a feeling that won't harm your lungs.
No, not
Science hasn't been able to prove or disprove that yet. So,
and actually, those moments where I felt like those influences I mentioned start to kind of like fade away. Like, you could go, all right, okay, let's park them to one side, because Ghostsmoker do have this other kind of side to their sound that does occasionally get kind of let out on this album, and that's where they veer kind of more into a kind of like more haunting kind of territory, and the guitars shift in a different gear, producing something a bit more kind of eerie and atmospheric, and they let the bass kind of take more of a kind of like spotlight, handles more of that kind of girthy kind of side, and the guitars and the drums kind of start to then work on building the track back up into another fucking riff that's just going to annihilate you. But it's really clever because it does break these tracks up. I think like one thing that happens occasionally on Doom albums is it comes across like a block of sound, and it's just like you get pummeled for that 7 minutes, and it's like oh my god. But with this, you've got that kind of like that moment where you've got that kind of space just to breathe. You know, there's a bit more depth to it, a bit more texture. It's less kind of linear, and those moments, it did feel like to me it was like maybe just moving slightly over to a kind of post-metal kind of type lane where you get that like echoey guitar, like on Bodies to Shore. When that kicked in, I was like, okay, this isn't a million miles away from like Cult of Luna or June, to just mention a wee Scottish band there, that type of kind of vibe. So they do kind of like veer over into the kind of post-metal realms at time as well.
It's like post-metal if Down were doing it. You know what I mean? Have Down decided tomorrow to do a Cult of Luna covers album?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what that middle section of Bodies to Shore sound like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Minus the kind of, you know, like that's not in here.
No.
But
on top of that, though, you've got a vocal style that isn't quite typical of the Doom or Sludge kind of like genres. Nathan Brunning has a much more kind of Blackened style of vocal, which
Seer is what I describe.
Seer.
sounds
yeah.
It does sound incredibly like I would love to see how fucking bruised, battered, strained, and pummeled his vocal cords are. I get a feeling they're fucking raw. Yeah,
I mean, it's not a kind of style that I've never heard before. There's a couple of other kind of Doom bands have done that. It's not unheard of. Monolord, for example, have kind of done the Doom thing with the Blackened vocal, so it's not new, but it's not as common as like the deep gravel you'll get with a Sludge band, or the more like even like the more kind of retro clean tone you get from some Doom bands as well. Nathan is just in savage mode for this album. Like, he is given zero fucks, and I love how kind of throaty and like you can hear all those little rasps and gargles of his voice. You can hear all of that, and it's like it's definitely got that kind of almost like kind of black metal character in his voice. But then there's moments where like he'll drop his register down into something really kind of guttural.
Yeah.
You know, when a track when the track does the drop, like as you say, like he goes kind of deeper on it and just gives it that bit more kind of impact. There's also some really nice vocal layering on this album.
Yes,
really enjoyed that.
The like I think Bodies to Shore is the first one where it stuck out to me at the kind of end section after the build, where you get that really low kind of growl and that high scream, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of. It's not a million miles away from what Noll are doing. In terms of that kind of the blood gargle or whatever he calls it. It's not quite as refined as that. It's a much rawer, rougher side of that, but. That kind of the layering of that just gives it so much more character and makes it sound heavier.
Oh yeah, much more.
Even
intense.
Though it's not it's not a heavier vocal. If anything, it's just two tones put together that just make it very similar to the guitar. We're just going to drop a fret and listen to how fucking heavy it sounds. Now it's the same idea.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought the vocal intensity and the style just like it matches the music in a way that just you're just sitting with a constant kind of stank face for the whole album. The other thing I love about this is Ghostsmoker know exactly how to bring a track to a close. Because as heavy and as girthy as these tracks are, they always save this like a wee king hit for the final stretch of each track. Now the the slowed down riff at the end of Haven was just fucking uncalled for. Like that track is already slow and already brutal, and Ghostsmoker were like, you know what this riff needs? Half timed. Just like what the fuck? And it is utterly soul crushing. That ending is just like
it's ridiculous. Difficult to half time something that's already very slow.
Oh man! But I also loved what they did on the album, the album closer.
It's really cool.
The Death of Solitude.
It's one of those moments on an album where I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I want all albums to finish. Like it's smart. It's a smartly composed track.
Yeah, I mean, it's got like a kind of doomy tempo and rhythm, but the guitars are doing something almost Blackened for a lot kind of big part of the track, the first half. And then it starts to get a little bit more almost kind of progressive, and there's this kind of like midway build up, and the drums start to get a bit more kind of freestyle and more kind of relaxed, and then they launch into this almighty doom riff that is so heinous and just so heavy that it should be illegal. It was just
it's like an 8-minute track, and the vocals don't come into the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like after like a minute of kind of weird guitar kind of feedback, kind of like on-off fuckery, which also the track closes out on as well, which I love bands that do that as well. It's kind of like, this is kind of bookending it with Sims.
It's really, I mean, it reminded me of definitely some early Conan in there, but it had like the kind of thunder of like a band like Tuskar, who we reviewed like a couple of years back, a 2-piece band. Had that kind of like punch to it, just like a really like just perfect way to end an album, like just finishes in a bang. You're like, oh fuck yes. The production on this couldn't be more suited to the band. Like Jason Fuller and John Roberto absolutely nailed it. Like this is fucking huge sounding. Like it is dense. You can feel that girth. But like it never becomes like too extreme that it becomes unlistenable. They hit a really nice sweet spot on the album where the tones are all really nice, but it's never like overcooked either. Shout out to the bass tone on this, because it's like
that Blackened riff on the Death of Solitude, and that bass is just like boom, boom. It's given it's given so much character to that track, when any other like producer would just had that fucking buried in the mix. It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't have anything like hugely negative to say about this in terms of how they've put it together. As I said, you can hear clear influences, and the blueprint isn't like overly complex. I've heard stuff done like this before. I do think the album gets better as it goes on, though. I think the two closing tracks, Haven and The Death of Solitude, are like my highlights of the release. I think they are more interesting when they start to push the boundaries musically a bit more. I felt like that Blackened side, I feel like they could maybe push it even a bit further. Also, the atmosphere, I feel like that could open up even further as well. There are moments on the album where I feel like you're kind of flirting with that, but I feel like I want you to go all in on it. Really strong album for a debut. This is really good. But I'm actually looking forward to how Ghostsmoker develop over time from here. Because I get that kind of like same kind of Conan feeling. Like when we heard Monos, I was like, oh, this is fucking incredible. But just if you look at the evolvement of the Conan sound over the album since Monos, it's ridiculous. And I have a feeling that Ghostsmoker could go on a similar trajectory. Like they have that kind of like they could open doors to other places and kind of evolve on their sound. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they do next. But as far as the debut goes, really enjoyed it. Like it definitely it satisfied me. It satisfied me, I'd say. What about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, this is fucking great. So just pick up the like to kind of lean into some of the comments you said, because I think you covered pretty much everything that I was going to say. I think they are a band that have like almost limitless potential in terms of the way they build tracks and and their influence as well that they bring into them. Be very, very easy just to do like the nastiest, rankest, disgusting, 42-minute album with none of the kind of dynamic shifts that this does here. The fact that you get through 6 minutes of an opener and maybe about 5 minutes of the next track before they drop things out and start that build, I think is a testament to good songwriting. But also it caught me unawares because like I was listening to Sludgy Doom Tone and I just anticipate the bands will carry that through the entire album. So those moments kind of caught me a little bit off guard, but are really, really well put together. Also, none of the like there's lazy sludge riffs, and then there's Ghostsmoker sludge riffs, and Ghostsmoker sludge riffs just have a lot more personality. The production on them has weirdly they mentioned that kind of that lo-fi kind of analogy presence. It does have that kind of lo-fi analogy kind of. They're not designed. The guitars are not heavy as fuck. You know what I mean? But the way they're played is heavy as fuck, right? So we're not drop tuned to fucking F. We're not at that level. I would be surprised to find out if their tuning is that bad, actually. I think it's just the way things sync up. They're just heavier than you expect them to be, a la a Conan. I also think vocally is kind of where the consistently won me over, even though there isn't a huge change in what they're doing vocally throughout. I like the fact that they don't feel the need to have it one over everything they're doing. Two, when it is done, it's not done just purely on the sludge groove or beat. He does mix up his rhythms in a kind of interesting way, almost in a black metal way as well. Not like scathingly fast or anything, but like there's an influence there through in how those are delivered. I would say that you've already touched on the bass production. The drums have a live room feel to them, which I kind of love as well. Once again, you overproduced that. You just sap the life from this. I also think like the tracks, like there ain't any short tracks here. There's no track on this album under 6 minutes, right? And the longest track is the closing track, and that's at 8 minutes. So it's like they're all lengthy tracks, but they don't fall into any of those trappings that are usually set out by genre. They cleverly avoid those. Inertia Cult is a fucking testament to just a band that are playing with a lot of ideas and a lot of styles. It comes on the back half of the album. It's almost the introduction to the second half of the vinyl, Dave. And I agree with you. I think when you go to Inertia Cult, Haven, and The Death of Solitude, those like 3 tracks couldn't be any more different, but at the same time are absolutely fucking incredible examples of what this band can do. So it is a kind of, in the best traditions, I would say, of sludge and doom, it's a slow starter.
Yeah.
But once it finds its pace, it kind of just continues to deliver right to the very end. I wouldn't have in a million years said Australia for them, just because we listen to a lot of Australian music, and I can't think of an Australian band that I've heard that do Blackened vocals. I'm sure they exist, but I've just never heard them. They sound to me like an American band, or maybe Scandinavian, one of the two. Definitely not Australian, and that's, when I say that, I mean that with all the respect and all the compliments I can give. The other thing I will say is, and I'm going to go back to this artwork again, listen to this album and look at this artwork. Has there been a better match made between like a visual and like a tone? It's so well put together. These guys are super fucking interesting. And whilst I would say, I would agree, they're not necessarily bringing us something we haven't heard before from other bands, I think they put enough of their own personality on it certainly for a debut, to make me think we could go in a number of different directions in an album number 2, and all of them I would enjoy. Like if they decided to go kind of like introduce those kind of, like attack snare moments or blast beats like Conan did later on. I would like that. If they decided to go more like avant-garde, spacey and out there, I think I would really enjoy that as well. So I think there's plenty of options for them as a band. I hope, from what they said when they were talking about international touring, they make their way over here. I would love to see these. I'd like small club, smoke machines on full, so you can barely breathe. Packed, absolutely rammed. So like everywhere is just like all you can smell, and if you open your mouth, you just taste body sweat.
It's like a giant vape.
Yep, and them just on stage bathed in a kind of like a dank blue light. That's what I want. Give me that, and I will die a happy man. Give me that.
Specifics, I like it.
Total specific. Could it be any more specific? No, it couldn't.
Okay, so final thing, scores for this debut album from Ghostsmoker. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this. Really enjoyed the album. I'm excited to hear like where they can go next. I feel like there are a lot of possibilities for this band.
I want a t-shirt.
A t-shirt.
Like Live Lost. I want a t-shirt with that fucking artwork on it.
Yeah.
So I can walk about places people are like, what's that say? And I'm like, Ghostsmoker.
Just blow some vape in their face.
Vapes?
I don't know. I don't even vape.
I'm sponsored by vape.
We
picked up a sponsorship I'm not aware of.
Don't smoke, don't vape, but I might start.
Did you say don't smoke, don't rape?
Vape?
Vape. Right, sorry, that's... Or rape. Just put that in there as well. What we doing? End this.
I'm going to start vaping though, just so I can promote this band. Anyway, scoring wise out of 5, I'd probably give this a little ripper out of 5, which would be equal to a 4 out of 5.
I've just got these images of Casper the Friendly Ghost vaping. Why is he vaping? I don't know.
What are you giving this little ripper?
I'm coming in same as you, 4. You said 4.
Nice,
that's what I'm coming in. 4. I think these guys, huge amount of potential. Very excited. I very much like yourself. I count myself as a fan now, and I will sit now with great enthusiasm to see what happens over the next year for these guys.
Yeah,
I hope nothing but great things, and we'll see them at some point, no doubt.
Yeah, hopefully. Ghostsmoker Inertia Cult out on March 21st on Art As Carthasis. Links below the band, the Bandcamp. I'll put a single in there as well. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think. Let us know in the comments below. That is the review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.